Alright, so Valhalla is probably my favorite DLC of all time. Not only does it add an amazing new story and the conclusion to everything we've done in God of War Ragnarok, but also some amazing unlocks both for the new mode as well as for the full-on game. So this includes the classic look for Kratos, which is absolutely making a comeback, as well as probably the most requested weapon of all time. I'm going to show you how to get these in the base game in just a bit, as well as a bunch of tips to make the most out of the new trials. Now, first things first, go ahead and absolutely complete the DLC. There are about 4 chapters in there, so it doesn't take too long to complete, plus it's not too difficult. You can of course choose the difficulty at the start, so it's not like a big deal. However, it's jam-packed with a ton of references from the old God of War games, a lot of his history that is being explored here, as well as some cool new stuff that I don't even want to spoil in this video. However, at the end of it, once you're done with all of it, you're going to come back at the shore over here and you're gonna be hit with this screen right here. Valhalla continues, and it also informs you that the new appearance that you unlocked during those Valhalla trials, as well as this armor set for Kratos, are now fully unlockable both in this mode as well as in New Game Plus. So no, unfortunately, it won't work on the normal version of the save game, but only New Game Plus, and even that you have to pass the prologue, go for the first time to Sindri's house, and you're gonna be able to unlock and recover all of these new looks from the recovery chest right here next to him. So the moment you do that, you can go ahead, and if you have any level 9 armor set and above, you can edit its appearance, and this is going to let you choose the new Glory of Sparta armor set, and this is how it looks like. But yeah, there's also a bigger change, which is the fact that you can now press R3 to switch between his default and his classic appearance. So this lets you go from old Kratos back to young self when he was back in the old God of War games. And I'm going to have to commend Santa Monica Studios for doing such a great job at recreating him. Like, he pretty much looks exactly how I remember, except that his graphics are obviously improved. Also, the sign and the tattoo on his side is clearly more visible, a lot more vibrant since it hasn't been weathered down by the ages. But this classic appearance, by the way, is completely separate from any armor set, so you can combine it with any new armor set. You don't have to stick with the Glory of Sparta. It works with literally anything in the game. Plus, it even shows Kratos as such during cutscenes. This is definitely going to be worth it, a complete new playthrough just because of the new look. The same goes for the Legacy Blade of Olympus, the new Spartan Rage, which also brings us this new old sword basically. It gives us access to one of the most iconic weapons in the series, but this is going to be available in New Game Plus 2 only after finishing the prologue. Unfortunately, it's not going to be available in the fight against Thor, but from that point on, you can freely use it at any time. And I really like this one. It gives you a full-on sword. It's actually very strong and it does seem to last for quite a bit. I was actually surprised how long it lasts and how much good damage it can deal. Plus, it's one of my go-to ways to also stun enemies. It seems that for some reason it's very good at building up that stun meter, especially if you do get some bonuses, even in like the Valhalla mode with bonus to stun effects. So this has the typical attacks. You have R1 for normal fast attack, R2 you have like the heavy attack. You can also use L2 and then R2 to kind of do this very devastating long range beam attack. This I found to be absolutely devastating, especially against bosses. Now, this also seems to restore a small amount of rage whenever you parry with L1, so you can further extend its duration even more as you do it. And if you use it, for example, in the Valhalla mode, you can also get some of those glyphs that give you more rage and even more HP regen when you take down enemies with it, so you can almost have it infinitely at times with a proper setup. But all in all, amazing to have. Again, in the base version of the game is still going to be very good and likely going to carry you quite a bit. Since it comes in fully upgraded, it means that you don't have to do anything extra to fully buff it up. Now, moving on, just because you finished the 4 chapters in Valhalla, it doesn't mean that you're done and saw all the endings. I think that there's a secret ending too that nobody unlocked yet. So that might either be tied to the, well, highest difficulty, which is this new one right here, give me like flawless or something along those lines, or maybe just progressing enough in it and unlocking everything. I'm still kind of like trying to farm all of it and get it, So until then, I do have some tips for you and how to pay attention to them. So on one side, this is going to be about the resources that you get and what's the first thing you should funnel them into, mainly the mastery and the spirit seals. So mastery seals is something that you're going to use on the left panel, the red one. This usually deals with upgrades for Kratos, so to his HP, stats, upgrades, and so on. Meanwhile, the spirit seals are going to be for the blue one onto the right side, and this usually deals with Valhalla itself. So getting more resources out of it, more of those temporary resources, getting more upgrades, and giving more possibilities to you while you are in part of these trials. Now, in terms of upgrades, some of the first I recommend right away are critical health regen and health looter right here. So essentially what the first one does is that this just lets you regen a flat amount of HP when exiting combat at max 30%, which is extremely useful if you tend to be usual at very low HP. The second one is even bigger, the health looter. Since this is something that you do a lot of, it's going to give you up to 10% of your HP back whenever you loot any legendary chest and any rift. And especially in the final sections, you're going to be doing a lot of that, so you're constantly going to be at full HP without having to worry about anything. Also, the starting resurrection stone was the next I upgraded. Having 2 at max at all time with me means that I have 2 more tries in case I fail. If you play on higher difficulties, this is going to be extremely important. Now, in terms of some of the rest, the next one for Kratos is also going to be the glyphs. Now, the reason why I say that is because you only start with about 10, so 2 rows, but you can add a whole extra row at the bottom, which means 5 more abilities and 5 more ways to increase your stats. So absolutely go ahead and unlock this ASAP. This is going to make it possible for you to have a ton of them and become absolutely immortal or deal way more damage than you could even in the base version of the game. You're essentially combining so many things, is going to be incredible. This was my priority, of course, but you can also alternate some of the stats between these when you don't have enough to boost the others. For example, defense, vitality, and strength were the ones I started with first. Now, besides the glyphs, there are 3 more slots you can populate with similar other abilities, and this is something that you get from these burdens of Valhalla that you will encounter at different stages. About 3 or 4 at max, with the last one being in the final gauntlet area. But essentially, these are going to give you a choice between, getting different upgrades at the cost of getting a debuff momentarily up until you defeat a number of encounters. So 3, 4, 5 encounters. And these are very useful because they have their own slots. They can further buff your damage even more with extra glyphs. And it only takes like 3 up to 5 encounters to fully get them. Once you defeat 5 groups of enemies, they are unlocked permanently, and you will have them with you at all times right here in the screen below the general glyphs area. So definitely something you should pay attention to. Now, besides these, there are also some of these gold challenges that you will get along the way. So why these are important is because they give you Leviathan crests, but at the cost of having to do certain tricks, like for example throwing enemies out of bounds or tripping them over and all that kind of stuff. But it's worth it because Leviathan crests are very rare, and you will need these to unlock various upgrades, plus some of the more rare armors. The only other thing you're going to want to pay attention to is the empowered shift. These are these orange yellow plaques that you will find in almost every level. Now, for the most part, these are useful because you can replenish your HP and rage by consuming some of your fleeting echoes. You can also upgrade your glyphs, and even more so, you can upgrade your runic attacks. So it's totally a viable option. However, pay absolute close attention to the second last area, which is usually Muspelheim, before reaching that Greek location. And that's because usually you're going to find either blade, axe, or the spear attunement. This is going to be another glyph you can apply, and that's going to further increase the base damage of these weapons. So usually they always contain these. It's a free damage increase, one of the best in there. I would definitely not skip on this. And again, like I said, it's usually in the very last Muspelheim area before reaching the big statues and the Greek location. That's why I recommend keeping at least a few, like 100 fleeting echoes just in case. Plus, at these sources, you can also buy additional chaos crests. They are very rare, as I've said, so it's totally worth it. Now, on a final note, I do want to talk about some of the side missions and some of the objectives that you want to complete here. But the main one is going to be the cycle, specifically because it includes 3 areas in Greece that you can visit. These are secret and otherwise unlockable by playing in the final section of the gauntlet, the one in which you have to defeat those 6 rare enemies. On your first try, you're going to be tempted to only complete 6 of the 6 of these Valhalla chosen. However, I recommend pushing forward to like the 14, which I believe is the maximum, at least the one I've seen. This doesn't just unlock those secret areas I was talking about, but also provides you a lot more of the spirit and mastery seals to further get more for your character, more permanent unlocks, buffs, stats, and so on. So that's why I like starting with the right path of the circuit. So going to the right usually puts you right in front of one of these golden encounters, and once you defeat it, this is going to immediately unlock the boat, which by the way is going to be on your way further down the line just a little bit. So once you're done with that first encounter, you'll reach this location and you're going to spot the door right next to you. If you've done everything right, it should be unlocked right here and you can access this. This is going to be a trial in which you have to defeat a number of enemies in a certain amount of time, like 40 seconds or so. So the faster you do it, the better it is. You can reach gold tier, which is going to give you the max rewards, mastery seals, and spirit. But more important, while you are inside of these Greek locations, so this includes both this as well as any other Greek location, you're going to have that timer at the top completely frozen inside of it, but you will still replenish it once you finish this area. So once you get outside of it, you will notice that the timer will further increase and give you more time at the current difficulty. Meanwhile, the desert one is usually going to be to the left side of the arena, so you will either have to backtrack or just follow the path ahead, circle around until you again reach its corresponding gold encounter, and this is going to unlock the arena. But that's going to be a little bit up to this side of the cliff, so you'll have to circle a little bit in the back, avoid some of these enemies, and you're going to find this door right here that again brings you to the next encounter. Now this is going to be a little bit more difficult, but the timer is also a bit longer, so you're going to have to defeat about 20 enemies, and again, if you do it successfully, this is going to give you another gold tier, plus the choice between different glyphs and rewards, plus completely freezing and then extending the timer to give you even more of the same difficulty. Now for the forum encounter, this is going to be 2 stories above from the central stage or the center area where you do all the preparation. However, this is only going to again unlock once you find its corresponding golden orb, but I usually tend to find this at the very end of the left section. So what you can do is just backtracking here and going back. You can essentially just jump at the end from this location, and usually this is going to be the golden orb right here. You can immediately defeat, and as you can see, it's going to unlock most of the time the forum arena very close by. So normally you would have to circle from the other side, but you can just go to the end right here. There is no restriction. This is going to, of course, give you a berserk encounter, and because you've completed all of this, you also have a multiplier which gives you vastly more fleeting echoes, the resource that is temporary and you can only use it during these trials. So at the end, you should have at least like 40,000-50,000 by completing all of these, and the difficulty so far is not going to be that high. So this is something that you can then funnel into unlocking more customization options. These tend to be a bit more expensive, like 15k per flawless piece, but you can also use some of the other chests in the center of the arena so that you can buy more upgrades in case you're missing them. Anyway, that is about it for now with the major stuff. Of course, more will follow soon, as well as that secret encounter that I'm going to post really soon. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.